Hello and welcome back. As you can see from those video clips there, that was the problem I was having last week. I don't know whether you remember that IVAT was beginning to stick when I wanted to move off when I stopped it in this position. What I hadn't noticed was that this coupling had dropped a little. It was hanging too low and it was just shorting out on this rail. So I've made an adjustment to the coupling, so hopefully we won't have those sort of problems again. We'll just zoom right out and then we'll give her a little power. We'll see if we can just back her into the sidings. Now I'm anticipating I've got the right controller in the right direction. There's been a little practice since the last video. It's getting easier, but again, please forgive me. This is playing with a new train set and things don't always go as you might imagine. Let's give it a go. And I think we'll stop this lot just with the locomotive under the bridge. That's just beyond the isolating section there, just in case we need it a little later on. So I'll just do that as well. So she'll stay where she's kept if we decide to use the rest of the line. So we noticed the Britannia there sitting on the line, but we just need to energise that track. So that's number 2. I've noticed a big problem with the way I've labelled this. I've got these laminated, and with the reflection from the window I can't read the numbers, so I'm going to have to redo that without the laminated covers on them, I think. So nice idea, the laminated ones, but works on these, but not down on the layout board now. Here's a Britannia. She's from 1976. Trying Railways made the Britannia way back in the early 60s. I can't remember the first date, but I'll pop that in the screen when I look that up. But this is a silver seal variant. The Britannia class locomotives were made, I think, right the way through, but I think she was branded as or named as Oliver Cromwell for a while as part of the silver seal range. This one's billed as silver seal. We'll have a look at the box a bit later on. Now I can't remember which direction we've got that this one will run, so I'll make an educated guess, which, as we know, might not be quite right. So let's see if we can back her out of the siding. There we go. And if we flip the points again, we'll get onto the turntable. So I confidently said we'd pull something off the turntable last week and then pulled something from right next to the turntable. So let's give this a go. So we want to change direction, and let's give this a little power and see if we can get onto the turntable gracefully. Now we've got that little pause there. It doesn't like it, these tender drive locomotives. And you can see where the tender rocks on this on the change of height, so where it climbs and then when it goes onto the level. So I'm just going to push her off there for a second and let's see if we can back her up a little bit, and we'll have another approach. There we go. So I think what's required is perhaps a tiny bit more momentum. There we go, and I've overshot that just a little bit. Again, this is so much easier when you're not trying to frame the camera as well, so we'll just back her up a little bit. There we have it. Now if you have noticed, I'm just going to switch the direction on that, so hopefully when we swivel her around on the turntable, she'll move off in the correct direction. I've switched to all Super 4. I almost put Super 4 in when I was first putting the turntable down, playing with it. It's the approach tracks, and that converter track dropped down to System 6, and this change in height with the angle was fine with most of the locomotives. The R.063s and the diesel strangely didn't mind it too much, but the tender drives tended to bottom out at this point here, so to smooth that out I've gone for Super 4, and it does improve the change of direction here as well, because it all happened very, very late on. So you've got climbing and this rail height change and the rocking business going on at the top there. So it was all quite uncomfortable. Sort of half of me is thinking potentially should I go for a slightly later turntable to go with the rest of this track, but we'll see. This is working relatively well. I've been quite happy with this over the weekend. Tried it with a number of different locomotives, just keep pulling a different one out and changing it. So I got rid of the converter track on the way in as well. So we don't have that change in height quite so rapidly. Ideally, you'd have a long straight with it away from the curve. So what I've done is I've created my own converter track here. So again, I'm demonstrating my crude metalworking here. So I've soldered the joint together and then done some filing to make it a nice smooth transition. So now we've got this gentle climb coming through here, and it seems to work quite well. So let's turn the Britannia around, and we'll get her off onto the layout and collect some coaches. So it's going to be noisy, so we'll give it some power. And you can hear that as the gears mesh through the pause points in the turntable. Let's have a look at the turntable as she goes round. So we've got the drive gear using this cog, and you can see these sort of blanked out bits. So the gearing under there does something clever as it gets to that point. Time to get back to the controls, and we'll stop that there. Let's see how she's lined up. It's not always a perfect one every time, but this looks pretty good. And you can see they've taken the decision to taper these rails quite heavily, apart from that abrupt change of direction there. They've made these rails taper off very, very sharply. Let's have a look at the front end here. So again, you can see they've got to bridge that gap. It's not smooth. So let's give that a go. So I'm predicting that the locomotive should go in the direction we want it. I'm just going to creep her forward a little just to test that theory. See, I got it wrong. So we're definitely going in the right direction. So we need enough momentum so we don't have that little problem with the tender rocking over the change of direction. Not too bad. So we'll stop her there. And I'm just going to flip a couple of other switches now. So I want the crossover to the station approach. And I want that one also on the station approach. So that should get me over there. So let's just have a quick look, because I'm hesitating that I've got those in the correct order at the moment, and I haven't. I've still thrown them in the wrong order, despite all that trying to memorize what I'm doing. So there we go, and it's that order. So away we go. Hear that motor just coughing into life there. And she crosses over to the station approach there. And then it's points number 1 is the next one to throw. I can't reach, I've got to step backwards. And we need to change direction. And we also need to change controller and open up the main line. So let's see if we can back into the station now. And we've finished with the crossover as well, so rather than forget about it. Slow that down. There we go, we've just got those coaches. I unhooked it from the Western a bit earlier on, so I hit them and put a bit of a safety gap in there. So we'll be able to pull those out of the station there. Britannia looking great under the canopy there. let's get her underway and see how we do. So definitely need the change of direction. And then off we go. Slight stutter through the diamond there. I think we'll just calm her down a little bit. Definitely tears away on the straight with that lack of friction. There, she's running at a nice sedate speed now. We'll just see if we can follow her around once. Get a couple of nice shots of her. Not too bad across the diamond from that direction. Pretty good stuff. Lovely looking model. So if I open this one now, it says confidently. Let's see if we can get this crab down the incline. And she does like the half wave. Let's see if we can encourage her into life. So, almost managed to do that gracefully and get her on the bridge properly. This is multitasking in the extreme here. Let's see if we can nudge her forwards a little. There we have it. And now what I want to do is roll her onto this line here. So let's change the direction, I think, on the turntable. And again, have a quick check on the alignment. Looks pretty good. And I think we've got her in the right direction. There we have it, and then we'll just rotate the turntable back again. And let's see if we can catch up with the Britannia. She is approaching the signal box and the diamond crossing. A rake of 4 Great Western coaches, Mark 1s. Very popular coach used for years by Triangle and Hornby Railways, just changing the size. Now I think we'll just bring her to a gentle stop just underneath the layout diagram there. There we go. Really lovely looking model. Let's just have a swift look. Just go in close. Now I think we should have a closer look at the model overall. And there's that terrific cover on the 76 catalogue again, and proudly we've got the Britannia running across the bottom of the page there, and the rollover onto the back cover is quite nice as those coaches run along the bottom of the page there too. Fairly fragile, this catalogue now. And we've got a dealer stamp here, can't quite read the name of the store, it's something models, but there's a little bit of a tear in the paperwork there. It's 22 Derby Street, Burton-on-Trent, and it's got a telephone number there of 64240. I wonder if anybody knows the store. So we'll just have a quick look on the inside. I think it's page 27 we're interested. Now the Britannia came along in 1960 as model R.063 and carried that model number right through into the early 70s, gaining a prefix of NS, I think, when she got the chuff chuff sound, and possibly with the alternative names available for a short period in the early 70s. And then she was sold as Oliver Cromwell only from 73 to 75, gaining the catalogue number of 552. And I think she was only ever glossy when she was produced like that, and that's when she got the Ringfield motor at that point, I think, from what I read. And then 76, the Oliver Cromwell name was dropped and it was marketed again as the Britannia, and it became R.063, as we see there on the page. Rather a fine glossy looking model by this stage. Silver seal locomotives, and you can see again an illustration of the motor there. That's very similar to the motor that was in the original Evening Star 9F that came along in the early 70s. So I think later this model, the Britannia, did get the slightly reworked Hornby silver seal style motor, the Ringfield style motor that came along afterwards, a sort of black body rather than the white plastic and metal plate. So let's put this catalogue down before it falls apart in my hands. Must get hold of another copy of that. I will have a swift look. Now, lovely red Hornby Railways box from the mid-70s. Inside is the white polystyrene, if you look at the insert picture. Very popular at this time. So you've got this lovely black and white face card here. And we've got the Silver Seal brand, the name of the loco and so on. We've got the info on the end of the box. You can see it's had quite a hard life. This paper or card they made the boxes out of is fairly weak and feeble. I don't think it was made to last a great deal of time. But still, it is quite nice to have the boxes. So we'll just pop that down now. She does come with instructions. It's quite a small sheet, so let's just have a glance at it. So I think there had been much bigger sheets later on. So this does cover a number of the models of the period that had gained the silver seal type motors, as they were calling it, and the plated wheels. Got information for fitting the nameplates to the Black 5 and so on here. But it is quite a small piece of paper, and the illustrations are quite small. We've got the model number here, R.063, and the date of the 15th of the 4th, 76. Let's have a quick glance down the other side. How to split apart the tender, and how the motor looks with that great big heavy metal block in it. We'll have a quick glance at that in a moment. And there we have those great springs. They look out of proportion to the motor, don't they? And how to clean the motor, and all of those fantastic gears there. And then we've got that lovely branding there, Rovex Limited. So we'll just pop that down and have a swift look over the model. So the model's had a fairly hard life. Let's just lift that up. So it's definitely been around the track a few times. The lining survived reasonably well. And these buffers are just pushing, they do keep dropping out. So just keep an eye out. We'll probably find we'll lose one in a moment or two. So she's in fairly good condition, nice and glossy. It's got the odd fingerprint into the gloss work here and there. So let's just have a look around the other side. Lovely plated wheels there. There's quite a bit of wear on the plating. These stickers, they're rather than a metal badge, they are just a metalized sticker, and the red work, the red printing on it is all fading away there, isn't it? Let's see if we can just hold this a bit more securely and have a look underneath. So she picks up on the chassis, and she picks up on the other side on the tender, and not being permanently coupled like the earlier models where the Oliver Cromwell, I think, was permanently coupled when she gained the tender drive. This model is where we see the separation. We get this uncomfortable connection. A little thing I noticed with this model when I got it is I had to shave off some of the metal on the drawbar there because it was physically holding the rear wheels of the tender just off the surface of the track, so there's any undulation in the track work, it was causing a cutout in its running, so it caused it to be quite uneven in some of its running. It does have a crack in the handrail there, very weak part in the design. I don't think we're going to have enough light to see down inside there. I'll try and put an insert in if we can't see in there. But quite nice, does the job. And the chassis, the wheels are lovely and free rolling. Let's just pop that down before we drop it. It's not a great way to handle this one, but it has been handled rather a lot already, so we're not going to over worry about it. There's a tender. It's very, very heavy. It's got that great big heavy weight in it, and again it does have the odd fingerprint ingrained into the very, very glossy varnish on this model. Lovely separately fitted ladder. So I think once it gained the tender drive as Oliver Cromwell, the tender was reworked a little more in common with the Evening Star, the 9F, than the previous model of the Britannia, but very similar looking. But lovely black gloss work here as well, isn't it? And there is the pin which connects into that drawbar. And if we have a look at the bottom of it, it only has the 2 traction tyres, whereas the earlier Evening Star and the Oliver Cromwell, I think, had all 6 wheels with traction tyres on at one point. Now, all these wheels do run with the motor, but there's no flanges there on the centre, so we pick up on that side on the tender and on the other side on the main part of the locomotive. Let's see if we can just peel off the body of the tender here and have a swift look on the inside. So I'm not going to run this because we've heard it running plenty on the track. Let's pop that down for a second. And you see that great big weight there, giving it plenty of traction. If you look down in there, there's that white body of this early Silver Seal motor with the metal plate, on the other side there we can see that. And the brush housings there just with little caps on them. So it really is quite a lovely thing. And it's quite noisy. It does echo quite a lot inside the tender body there. So you can see that gearing just in there. And there is a fair bit of damage to one of these buffer shanks here. I don't know whether we can see that. It must have reversed into something a little too quick because it's just split away there. You can see the plastic underneath there. Can we see that? Yeah. But apart from that, it's just quite a lovely model of the time, I think. And there we have her back on the rails. I think in the mid-70s there was a variation on this as a budget model called the Iron Duke. There's a couple of variants from what I read of that, and it was either supplied to the catalogue houses or sold as a budget model in sets, I think, for a period in the 70s. I'm not very sure on that. I don't think it had the smoke deflector. I don't have an example of it at the moment, but I've read a little bit about it, and it was in quite a basic green with none of the paintwork on it, or names, or none of the pipework picked out. Let's give this a bit of power. I have sort of opened up the path so we can go onto the elevated section. So let's just watch her deal with the climb. Definitely got to take some power out of that, I think. Otherwise she's just going to jump straight off the point work at the bottom of the incline here. A long way to climb over all that station to rectify all the derailed coaches, I think. think we'll just bring that to a stop again just before the point work. And we'll just adjust the points. And we'll just get it to roll around the inside line one last time, I think, before we go. So we've done with that one. We've done with that. So that should, let me widen the camera a little bit as well. There we go. So I think we should run onto the inside line. A little power now. There we go. So we just need to close number 2. And we might as well close up 1 while we're at it. And 2. And then just before we end the video, we'll just have one run around the inside, I think. So we'll just see if we can get the whole lot in view. Wrong controller. Sorry, I'm looking backwards again. Train's going backwards. And I think that's probably it for this week. So thanks again for watching. Charging through there. I think we'll calm that down. You can see I clearly turned the controller the wrong way. I said I was going to calm that down, and I just wound it right up. So we'll bring it to a stop this time around. So let's begin to slow her right down now. Just get it to a crawl. Let's see if we can climb across this point work. Slight stutter there. And that's where I was planning on stopping, somewhere just a little way up there by those clerestory coaches. I think there will do just fine. Sorry about that, I suddenly wound the controller in completely the opposite direction. That's what happens when you stand looking at the moving object and reach behind you with your hand to use the controller. So I was looking sort of in this area here and looking back at where my hand's going over there. So you can see where the confusion comes from. Well, I think I was already saying goodbye and thank you very much for watching. And thanks for all those who take the time to write those great comments. It's always wonderful to read. So thanks for taking the time for that. And if you look back again next time, we'll have something else interesting from the range to have a look at. Goodbye now.